Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, in the presence of the original system admin and original being, original unconditional being of reality, and all conditional simulated manifestation. Today I was inspired to speak about what motivates human beings. And pretty much I'm starting off with the research component first. um I just I asked this question from ChatGPT 5.2. It gave an interesting answer, and I'm still looking at the topic. I have certain opinions on, I guess, what motivates existential activity, what is an existential intention, or what even motivates for things to happen in existence. It could be, I mean, it is a problem bigger than we our answers can satisfy, but still I think as a human being, I think it's a cool thing to just figure out. I mean, see, I have this approach that I sometimes, I don't know, I act like I'm reinventing the wheel. Let me explain what I mean. Let's say, you know, you want to go into a store, somebody tells you don't go into that store. The owner is like a terrible person. Okay? Now, I can choose to believe that person, or I can choose to go to the store and actually figure out what's going on. And then imagine later on I realized that person disliked the owner of the store because they had a problem with the owner of the store. Do you know? So that means in this life there's a lot of reality that we're just like going along with, but I feel you need that ability to wonder about things again. I think this is the most important ability to cultivate. It's pretty much, you know how Tom Hanks in the movie Castaway was like stranded on an island. Um, when it comes to the meaning of life, you got it. It feels like you're stranded. Okay, being on in this world is like being in a system we didn't design. Okay, and we're here to like figure things out, but it's not possible to figure things out. Because of the position of the human. Anyways, where I'm going with this is the whole lecture. I'm a visual thinker. Pretty much I'm seeing something and I'm talking about it, but I'm not seeing it externally. I'm seeing it in my inner realms, and I see probabilities of reality. So when I tell you what motivates human beings, I have access to the past in regards to like knowing how human beings have been motivated before. And also I can visualize different motivations. I can see that there will be technologies that will bring in new feelings, and these new feelings will surpass, the feelings we had from ancient ideas, or not ancient, but older ideas. Right, so I'm making the point, it's important to figure out like the motivation. For me it's very exciting, just like imagine like a nation, what am I saying, a National Geographic photographer like photographing, I don't know, a bunch of like, I don't know, sloths on it. I'm saying in the same way, like there needs to be an anthropological interest. In the same way, humans are fascinated at looking at different members, at looking at different species behave. Okay, there will come a time where you will be fascinated with how human beings are behaving, and you'll soon realize that each human is an antenna, but it's an antenna that's functioning from their own inner world. That means, believe it or not, we have physical bodies, but how we feel about reality is not just based on our body. Okay, that means I wouldn't be surprised if a majority of the human experience, it experiences itself as human, but it does not consider itself to be a thing, because it's a dynamism, it's a movement. When we wonder about motivation, what's the motivation of anything in existence? It's like we're asking, why is anything moving at all, right? And when you wonder about why things move in reality, you have pretty much, like, because we're in a dualistic state, we have two options. Either it's in some sense we make sense of something because of our relationship to it, or we in some sense understand that our relationship is not enough to comprehend the motivation of something. Like, for example, me myself, there's been various people throughout my life that I misinterpreted their motivations. I misunderstood their intention, and only afterwards I understood, okay. So here's the thing. If you want to see it as an eagle that flies into the sky and sees the whole forest, it's easier that way. If we want to be very specific about what motivates every moment, like every single moment, it could have numerous factors. It could be numerous reasons. Do you know? It's like, why is the person running out of the house? They could be late for work, they could be an emergency, so there's so many different ways to see these motivations. But when you look at it from a macro picture or an externalized view from the outside, you can see the patterns their motivations kind of suggest. Okay. I think that's very fair to say. That means even if somebody doesn't communicate to me like how they think or whatever, their actions will show me their intentions. Their intention will show me what the situation they were in behind their eyes before they behaved in any way in front of their eyes. Okay. And pretty much think of it this way again, like motivation is just what's moving in the room and why is it moving. Okay. Like, what's the motivation of specifically humans? I think this is a very cool question. Okay. Because the answers, like, there's many answers to it, but it's not enough. Like, we can't, if somebody, let's say, how do I say it? Like, imagine somebody does something bad, okay? We will look at that, based on the consequence and be like, yo, that guy, this guy's motive, you know? We try to reverse engineer their motivation from the consequence. But it's not accurate. There could be various reasons. Sometimes even the brain has capability of giving you emotions, of senses of self that you no longer are. Okay, that means if a person is very unconscious of their life, their subconscious motivations could be very different. You could see someone in front of everybody smiling, shaking hands, being very friendly. The moment they leave, they hate people. Do you know what I mean? Like, there could be such a thing. Do you know? There's various states, various different motivations, and it's not even possible to fully understand the motivation of an individual until after the action. But anyways, this was important to me, and I'm going to read for you the research component. Okay. I have deeper views on this. I'll share it at the end. Pretty much that's what these lectures are, like how deeply I see things. I try to share as a member of the human species, reporting back to the species. Okay, I'm going to read this for you. ChatGPT 5.2, what motivates human beings? So AI says, human motivation is not driven. Excuse me, I got to play some music. All right. Where was I? Human motivation is not driven by a single force, such as pleasure, survival, or desire. Yeah. I mean, all right. Sorry, I'm going to read it again. Human motivation is not driven by a single force such as pleasure, survival, or desire. It emerges from a multi-layer regulatory system whose primary function is to sustain a coherent self across biological needs, psychological stability, social integration, and temporal continuity. Human action is the output of this system attempting to remain viable in a complex, uncertain world. So, guys, I think this is a good way of saying it. It says So rather, right, it emerges so the human motivation emerges as a multi-layered regulatory system. That means it's a multi-layered system being regulated, and the primary function of that regulation is to maintain a sense of self across time, across all these other factors you see. So the motivation of human beings, okay, just from reading this first paragraph, is very obvious that our motivation is to maintain a sense of self over time. Now, in this world we're living in, not many people appreciate this. Even me myself, sometimes I live more as a mind than a body. You know, there were times. I think it was in 2016. I remember I was giving so many talks throughout the day, and I was so fascinated by the stuff I was talking about that I had gone like I wouldn't eat. Like you don't understand. At some point, I'd become so skinny. When I would sit on the chair, I would feel my body. I don't know how to explain it, right? But I'm saying it was as if like something else was motivating me. You don't understand. When I come to give these talks, it's not like I've assumed the energy for the talk from before. It's You might not believe it. These talks are the system admin's kind of mercy to me. To in some sense, like every day I wake up, all right, a new vision, a new line of thought, a new sector of my reality that I've not looked at or wondered about or even fully understood. And then you just open the envelope. I was raised at a time where my father and grandfather, they would read newspapers. You know, I saw people reading newspapers. I didn't read newspapers. That generation. You know, or would go like when I was very young, I would go to the puzzle or cartoon side of the newspapers. So, anyways, guys, to go back to this, the maintenance of a self sense of self. That means every person you see, you love, you hate, you like, you dislike, whatever, are all motivated to maintain a sense of self. Okay, over time. And here it says a coherent self across biological needs, psychological stability, social integration, and temporal continuity. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are in a temporary game. You're not going to be on Earth forever, and you are conditioned to feel like you are them. But that conditioning is not correct. Just because our ancestors did our best to teach us something doesn't mean they taught us the correct thing. It was the effort that counted. Like a part of me, like even sees. Let's say some nowadays, see I guess the matrix of conspiracy thought. You know, they have this view like, oh man, shadow elitism is like controlling reality and not letting it be as advanced. You know, and let me tell you, it is not their fault. You see an evil being, it is not their fault. You see a good being, it is not their fault. It is the fault of being at all. You understand? That means we have been for generations interpreting people as good and evil. And of course, for me, just because I tell you that you can see people beyond good and evil doesn't mean be clueless, doesn't mean be naive. You should, in some sense, be like a sparrow. Okay? And if you've ever seen a sparrow, I've given a lot of talks outside. When you see a sparrow land on a branch, the amount of in how many nanoseconds it scans its environment. That's what human beings have forgot. You're all functioning over looping comfort. Even me, there's some things that I don't even consciously do because they become part of an unconscious system. You understand? But for me, there is something that it's like, yeah, I get it. If consciousness is an energy exchange, like, we think we're living in the day, but no, it's an interaction. It's like a conversation. From the moment I enter existence, existence has entered also my moment, you know? Can you hear? Okay, is it audible now? Can you guys hear me? My God, I had found such a good rhythm. Oh no. What was it, Man, I need Adele to listen to my talks, so I can hear her hello from the. Okay, am I back? Like, are you guys hearing me? Guys, I'm doing this. I'm giving these talks for free, okay? I'm outside of a Tim Hortons in my car using the Wi-Fi. Yeah, I don't have. Hopefully, I could get a better setup. God willing. Do you know if I was getting paid for like the user experience, still not audible, eh? That's crazy. How are people not hearing me? It's showing the microphone move. All right, guys, I apologize if this is disconnected. It's showing like, the microphone, the green light of it moving. There's still three viewers, so I'm assuming you guys are hearing it. Or are you guys hearing this? All right, I gotta check myself. Okay, so guys, I checked it. It's working fine. So maybe you need to refresh. Okay, guys, refresh the browser. I don't know. I mean, I'm changing my inner realms too much. I'm gonna go back. Um, whatever. I've given so many talks that they've not been recorded, or there was an issue with the file or something, that I'm just talking for the moment. I hope it's here audible. God willing. Okay, so I was, man, I was building up to something very nice, but I've lost the trail. So I'm just gonna go back to reading this. Okay. So, guys, I was reading the research component. We're wondering about what motivates human beings. Every human being we've seen in our life, we're wondering about why are they moving? Like, what are they doing? We're wondering about the motivation of existence, because humans are a part of existence as well. The question is bigger than we think. But anyways, let's zoom in on the human experience, and I'm going to read this again. So, what motivates human beings? Human motivation is not driven by a single force such as pleasure, survival, or desire. Rather, it emerges from a multi layered regulatory system whose primary function is to sustain a coherent self across biological needs, psychological stability, social integration, and temporal continuity. Human action is the output Human action is the output of this system attempting to remain viable in a complex, uncertain world. At the most fundamental level, human beings are motivated by biological regulation. Like all living organisms, humans act to maintain homeostasis, the regulation of hunger, thirst, temperature, pain, and safety. These drives are automatic and non negotiable, governed by ancient neural systems. However, unlike simpler organisms, humans possess advanced cognition, which means these basic drives are rapidly embedded within higher order processes. This is so important, guys. That's the point. This last line, okay? It says, however, unlike simpler organisms, humans possess advanced cognition, which means these basic drives are rapidly embedded within higher order processes. So the whole point of the conscious evolution is that something that was only accessing lower order processes is now accessing higher order processes, meaning you are seeing more out of the room. Therefore, your motivation is more than the room. Anyways, I'm going to go back to reading this. So it says above law survival. So I'll read that last line again. However, unlike simpler organisms, humans possess advanced cognition, which means these basic drives are rapidly embedded within higher order processes. Above raw survival lies emotional regulation. Humans are motivated to reduce anxiety, fear, and internal instability while seeking states of psychological equilibrium. Much of human behavior, avoidance, attachment, aggression, ambition, can be traced to attempts to stabilize the inner emotional environment. Importantly, emotions are not irrational forces; they are informational signals guiding the organism toward or away from perceived threats and opportunities. So, wow, what a nice way of saying it. So, guys, your behaviors, okay, are your attempts at stabilizing your inner emotional environment. And it makes sense, because I'll be honest, the joy, there's a fun with not being responsible for like your emotions and thoughts in the moment. And then there's also this is, I think, a fun, maybe not a lot of people know how it's fun, right? But see, like, um, okay, is it not? It's not working. 1, 2, 3 doesn't show. Yalla, why? Okay, so sorry for the technical difficulties, guys. Um, could you guys hear what I was? That's the important part. I mean, if it goes here and out, so I guess if people. It's so important what I'm reading, man. Okay, whatever. Um, I'm gonna keep going. Above survival lies emotional regulation. Humans are motivated to reduce anxiety, fear, and internal instability while seeking states of psychological equilibrium. Much of human behavior, avoidance, attachment, aggression, ambition, can be traced to attempts to stabilize the inner emotional environment. Importantly, emotions are not irrational forces, they're informational signals guiding the organism toward or away from perceived threats and opportunities. As intelligence increases, motivation expands beyond the individual organism into the social domain. Humans evolved as a deeply interdependent species, meaning survival became inseparable from group membership. Consequently, the nervous system encodes belonging as safety and exclusion as threat. Social status, acceptance, recognition, and attachment are therefore not cultural luxuries, but biological imperatives. Humans act to secure their position within social systems because social integration historically determined access to resources, protection, and reproductive viability. Yeah, yeah. Anyways, it says, however, human motivation does not stop at survival, emotion, or belonging. What distinguishes humans from most species is the ability to perceive time abstractly, to imagine the future, reflect on the past, and evaluate the meaning of effort itself. This introduces a unique problem. Once humans can foresee suffering, delay, and death, instinct alone can no longer justify action. At this level, meaning becomes a necessity. Yeah, so humans have, the ability of abstraction in their inner realms. We perceive time, imagine the future, reflect on the past, evaluate the meaning of effort itself. Yep. This introduces a new problem. Once humans can foresee suffering, delay, and death, instinct alone can no longer justify action. Exactly. Do you know what this means? Humans have something called, let's say, instincts, which is they're existing in a physical environment, right? And they can respond to the environment. Like their instincts is an innate internal response to their environment, right? But the thing is, now humans have the access to time. They're using time, the concept of they have access to that abstraction of time, which means for the first time we have to wonder about our instincts to abstract events, which I believe they call that intuition. Okay, which is very close to that. Do you know? But it's like what is instincts in the outer is like intuition in the inner. You can see it that way, I guess. And yeah, I'll post the text in the description after the talk, guys. So because of this ability that human beings can perceive future events, events that have not happened yet, like abstract events, okay, their instincts can't justify their action because they're receiving input or information. I should say they're receiving something that is not based on an existential intelligence only. Okay, so it says at this level, meaning becomes a necessity. Okay, um, that means instinct is like you don't need to think about something, you just instinctually are doing it in a certain way. But meaning replaces instinct when we have to consider an abstract event's reality in the future. Okay, so we need to make sense of stuff that hasn't happened yet that may, do you know? And that's why meaning it's it's necessary, I find. Anyways, let's keep going. Meaning functions as a motivational integrator. That means our attempt to make sense of something is our motivation to, I guess, integrate and discover. Because that's the case, like I don't know, I may be a strange uncommon man for acknowledging it like this, but sometimes I see people as words that I don't know the definitions to yet. They are words that need to they define. Do you know what I mean? It's like a human being is a concept that defines its that can is capable of defining its own meaning. Do you understand? That means in the same way they say a person can speak for themselves, all of you are existing for yourselves. Imagine they're like, speak for yourself, man. It's like exist for yourself, man. It's like I already am though. You know? Anyways, I'm gonna keep reading. Meaning functions as a motivational integrator. It connects present effort to future outcomes and embeds individual actions within larger narratives, personal, social, cultural, or existential. Meaning allows humans to endure hardship voluntarily, delay gratification, and act consistently over long periods. Without meaning, motivation fragments into impulse, addiction, or withdrawal because the system lacks a reason to sustain effort beyond immediate reward or avoidance. Oh my God, guys, I'm all my addictions, do you know, is because I didn't have meaning. Do you understand? So you got to be very careful. Now, here's the interesting thing. I gave a lecture on meaning the other day in regards to, is meaning something that is generated or something found? You need to go find meaning. Like, does somebody need to give you your meaning? Like, there are men that, for example, their family, their wife, that becomes their purpose, that becomes their meaning. Do you understand? But when a person doesn't have meaning, it's another way of saying they have not found a way to access a greater value of themselves. Okay. Anyways, so it says, from a systems perspective, a human being is a self-modeling, goal-generating organism embedded in multiple overlapping systems. So this is very important. It says, look at life like a system. Okay, you're looking at the human being. It's like, how's the system behaving? It's self-modeling. Okay, that means it adjusts itself. You see somebody wearing a cool hat, like you might want to wear that cool hat, you know. No. And sorry guys, just a quick distraction. Where was I? Okay, so it says from a systems perspective. So look at reality like a system. You look at a human being, its behaviors are itself, it models itself based on what it sees externally or even what it articulates internally. A lot of my behaviors and my reality is actually modeled based on my inner realms, but I have legit like re-rendered my inner realms like pretty much for years. Okay. You're like, my God, I'm in existence, but the meaning of existence is still buffering. Like, is it still buffering? Like, can you imagine, like, till the end of the lifetime? It's like I'm still waiting for reality to buffer. Like, just that's so silly. Oh my God. So, anyways, it says, from a systems perspective, a human being is self-modeling, goal-generating organism. You got to generate your own goals. You got to find your meaning. If you sometimes find yourself in a situation and you might look at the sky and be like, universe, why? Why am I in this situation? You know, the reason is, okay, because you need to generate new goals, you know, and this is something we're not trained in. Like it should legit be taught how to generate goals. Okay. Anyways, to keep going, it says, organism embedded in multiple overlapping systems. So you are a system, you're like one big system, imagine, but you are the relationship of multiple systems simultaneously. For example, I'm someone who, I've paid a lot of attention to my psychological system, but I've paid less attention to my biological system. I've paid less attention to my social system sometimes, but I've paid a lot of attention to my symbolic systems and temporal nature of reality. That means some people are inspired. Let's say their motivation is like maintaining these systems, right? So we understood right now from what I've read so far that the motivation of human beings is to maintain a sense of self across time and all the conditions of their life. Okay, right? So across a set of time, across time, to maintain a coherent sense of self. Okay, now that sense of self is the simultaneous presence of a biological, psychological, social, symbolic, and temporal system. Right now, I think society is making people pay attention to their biology. Like, that's one good thing that happened with, like, the fitness craze. Is that um, the fitness frenzy? Do you know what I mean? Like, all these people coming and teaching people how to become more fit. Okay, so that's pretty good. That's a good sign that the species is like people are understanding the importance of maintaining their biological systems. That's why gym businesses are like genius businesses, low cost, like endlessly required, you know. And then you have psychological systems. This is very complex because think of your inner realm as your like your think of your mind as the driver, or how do I say it? Your psyche is what it all means, and what kind of experience, I guess, you're extracting from your day. Um, I'm just telling you, it's based on your attention. Some people, maybe they have biological problems in their life early on, so they learn to solve biological, problems early. Some people have psychological problems maybe when they're young, they learn to have strong psyches. Some people have social problems when they're young, they learn to be very sociable people. Some people have symbolic problems. Okay, I could totally see that in the sense of misaligning. That means you've misinterpreted the basic meaning, and therefore the basics don't make sense. Like that could happen, you know um and the temporal reality is just we're here for some time. Pretty much life, honestly, like deep down, I feel its motivation is what do you do with what you are while you're being it. Okay, like what's the value a human being can generate? We look at a human being and we have somebody like, a tyrant, Vlad the Impaler or something, like, do you know what I mean? Like some messed up human being, and that's the influence they had. And you see some like I don't know, there's people like Einstein, geniuses who notice things that, by noticing them they usher everybody, forward, right? There's various different kinds of intelligence, right? And the way you look at the motivation of human beings is that they're all trying to maintain, I mean, this makes perfect sense, their emotional stability. That means we all have a management task. The motivation is the management of, I guess, the sectors of one's own life simultaneously, right? So anyway, so I keep rereading this part, but anyways, it says for such a system to function. So I'll read that again. From a systems perspective, a human being is a self-modeling, goal-generating organism embedded in multiple overlapping systems: biological, psychological, social, symbolic, and temporal. For such a system to function, it must answer four implicit questions. Okay, so pretty much it's saying humans need to answer four questions, and that kind of, like, I guess, solves their um, motivation problem. It says it must answer four implicit questions. What are these questions? One, can I survive? Biological regulation. Okay. Two, am I psychologically stable? Emotional regulation. Three, do I belong? Social integration. Do you know? Four, why should I continue? Meaning and purpose, which is another way of saying exist. Okay. So this is very important, I guess. I mean, now even thinking about it, yeah, like that's kind of like been my search to answer these for myself. Right. So, and think of it this way, even think of yourself as a parent, like, I don't know, like I'm not a parent yet, but imagine like you're raising other humans, right? You can totally see that these are questions in the mind of any being. Like the being's like, okay, I appeared somewhere, can I stick around here, can I stay here, can I be here, can I be a function in this space, and then the second one, am I psychologically stable, can I discriminate between my inner realms and outer realms, which is another way of saying, can I discriminate between my subjective life and my objective life? Did you know existence to me doesn't really mean anything? The meaning is assigned to existence. Existence itself is just like shape. It's just content. I shouldn't say content. It's just stuff, right? But there is an addition. There's a higher, I guess, higher conscious of higher process or higher order process, you know, um, aspect to us that. How do I say it? The moment you see a bigger world, how can your world be small anymore? The moment you realize there's a more advanced way to live, how can you live that way? Do you know what I mean? Right? Like the moment you realize you could have done something you just didn't know. Like how many things could we do right now that we don't know? The whole and anyway, motivates human beings. AI is telling me these 4 questions are pretty much being answered. That means if I ask you, do you know, I mean, oh my God, like if I ask anybody based on this research thing I'm reading, if buddy, these 4 questions, and if they can't answer it, then they don't know, they have a motivational confusion in existence. That could be, and it doesn't mean these are like we know the answers because they have one answer, like a multiple choice. You know, it's not like can I survive? There's only one answer. You know, or am I psychologically stable? There's one. No, everybody has a different DNA. Therefore, we're living in an era where everybody has to be responsible for being something that nobody else is. So, in order for us to see a human being as a system, and for this system to have, let's say, proper motivational function, okay, it needs to ask itself, can I survive? Am I psychologically stable? Do I belong? Why should I continue? Okay. And believe it or not, the advanced civilization and the stuff I talk about in my talks, I'm starting, like, honestly, I feel like I'm answering some of these, like, at least sharing views on it. So it says human motivation emerges where these layers align. Action becomes difficult or collapses when one or more layers fail. A person may be physically safe, but socially isolated, psychologically regulated, but existentially empty, or socially connected, but without personal meaning. Each failure produces a distinct form of motivational breakdown. Guys, to give an example here, I want you to imagine like the child of a billionaire. Imagine like Barron Trump or Elon Musk's ex or something. Like imagine these kids, okay? Their fathers have accessed states where they can 100% biologically survive. Let's say they're psychologically stable, they get what they want, okay? They belong, right? But then why should I continue? The meaning, the purpose you assign for yourself in this life, it suggests the quality of energy you have. It suggests everything. A lot of people think confidence is something that, let me tell you, everybody is confident walking. Everybody is confident opening a door. Everybody's confident eating food. Do you know why? Because we can see ourselves having done the action, because we've received proof that the action is done, but in the inner realms, it's been done. Do you understand? That means the moment I know what to do, there is no such concept as confidence or doubt or anything. It's just I see the geometry of it. Do you know? So anyways, it says if in one of these 4 areas, the answers, if you don't have one of these answers to these 4 questions, it could be something that there is turbulence in the system, right? And it says a person may be physically safe, but socially isolated, psychologically regulated, but existentially empty, or socially connected, but without personal meaning. Each failure produces a distinct form of motivational breakdown. At the highest level, human beings are motivated by the need for coherence. And I know this, that vibe we all have of wanting to fit in and all of us wanting to belong. It's not that we want to belong to this. I think it's a much deeper feeling that a part of us knows that there's a more advanced way all of this can happen, or maybe is happening that we're not conscious of. And finding that coherence, or becoming, how do I say it, like the stability of all of your different dimensions, across one field of awareness. I guess the meaning factor of it is most people, like the meaning of their lives is being limited to the idea of themselves. It's being limited to a conceptual articulation. But if you make your purpose, if you wonder about the context of life, then you will be fascinated and by discovering all the things that are unknown aspects in your mind are also moments that are waiting for you to generate meaning. What does that mean? That means if let's say I go on a date with someone, and I don't know, I have an impression of her, like, I get a certain understanding of who she is, right? But still, there's some things like she does or says that doesn't make sense to me. Like the context is missing. Like I conceptually engage, understand, right? But something about the context of how those concepts are being considering themselves doesn't make sense. And in those moments, it means that that person has unknown variables, and of course, everybody has unknown variables. Every moment has even unknown and known variables. But I'm saying, when you come across an unknown variable, what do? You either avoid it, okay, or you get to know it, or how do I say it? It's either you avoid it, you actually see what it is, or you assume. You consider an assumption, like like right now humans have to assume what the center of the. Anyways, I'm gonna go back. I'm still reading this. So it says coherence means the self feels continuous, justified, and oriented across time. Belonging provides coherence in space. So that's why you guys need to belong, to be coherent. Oh man. Guys, you don't understand. When I sometimes give these talks, I imagine silly versions of me giving the talks, and it makes me laugh, and you guys have no clue. So that's why if you see me, it's legit my own insider humor. So it says, in summary, in goddamn summary, in summary, human beings. I'm kidding. In summary, human beings are motivated not simply by pleasure or survival, but by the need to remain a coherent, socially embedded, temporally oriented self in an unpredictable world. Survival keeps the system alive, emotion stabilizes it, belonging anchors it, and meaning propels it forward. Human action arises where all four forces converge. That was an incredible last sentence. I'll read it again. Survival keeps the system alive, emotion stabilizes it, belonging anchors it, and meaning propels it forward. These were the four questions, right? So pretty much it's saying, I guess, if we were to wonder about an advanced, like, human being motivated, or I don't know, an advanced human motivate, or let's say an efficient human motivational system, okay, this system needs to figure out um, a strategy for biological regulation. At the same time as it's finding a strategy for its emotional regulation, social integration, and meaning and purpose. And guys, you know what gives these four? You know what strategy human beings have been using from the beginning of time to, in some sense, have these four motivations met to be a healthy human being? It's called work, yo. You know, that's the job, your archetype, who you choose to be. It doesn't matter. Like, you could even be like a housewife, right? And it's the job you choose, right? Gives you the purpose and meaning, and all the other things arise, right? And the issue is, I'm sure, I know, even like you bring like the coolest people, you know, everybody has moments of not feeling like they're complete. A human being going around and telling everybody, yeah, I'm a completed being, is BS, by the way. Okay? you know it's just different strategies. And the most fascinating thing after, like, these are all human reasons, right? So the AI is pretty much being like, all right, buddy, right, you're a human, you got to find the answers to these four dimensions of your life, right? Your biology, your emotions, your sociability, and then meaning and purpose, right? So pretty much, you need a healthy body, you need, I guess, healthy emotions, you need to be having a healthy experience of society, right? And of course, you need to have purpose, because I'm sorry, if you were in a world that was so unique and there were so many different ways to look at it, and you couldn't find a purpose here, How's that even possible? That's not even possible. Finding a purpose is so easy. You could even like make not having a purpose like a purpose, but the whole point of it is it's a selection out of the void, right? Like that's the power of our decisions, you know. um for me, I was like, I do have this view that we're all simulated beings in a simulated scenario, but everything is simulated in an original moment. So what does that mean? That means it's not like, is it true or is it false? No, it's just different rooms, yo. We're in a room that's simulated now. However, that room is the size of the edge of the cosmos, okay? We're in a simulated room now. Doesn't mean there aren't rooms where we have an original awareness to our original being. But you're going to realize the higher mind, like just like how I mentioned that humans, like I read for you, that human beings are these organisms that became conscious of higher order processes. The moment you realize there's higher order processes, it means there's a higher order. Now, instead of a process, imagine a being. There you go. You have a higher being. It's just an excuse. Atheism, secular society. I'm telling you, you have done one of the most dangerous things, denying the abstract significance of meaning. Do you understand? Let me tell you why. Yes, from the body's view, yes, we need to be very accurate about physical reality. That's why I enjoy being a realist, right? Like that's what grounds me, the realism of it, right? The design of it, the stability of the geometry being there, you know? Like existence is not changing so fast that I cannot make sense of it. It's changing, or I am changing, or I am functioning as an intelligence in a way that I feel I'm faster than the moment. I'm more active. It's legit like a field activation. The human being is behaving like an entity that has noticed that skills and power and ability is not per se within it. It comes from within, but it's not within you. It is within the moment. The moment is not just you. It's not just your body you find in the moment. It's not just your thoughts and ideas. These are elements of if you treated your whole moment of being as a system, these are elements you find in it, right? Dear viewers of reality, I feel that in how we were young, we were taught in like basic science that you have a substance. However, the state of this substance could be different. It could have different states, and everybody knows liquid, solid, gas, right? I want you to imagine you have an intelligence that can selectively choose to become ice or become fluid like water, like Bruce Lee would say, you know, or realize that there is a reality that is unobservable, like steam, or gas, right? It's a concentration. I think the biggest thing we got to take, like, I think everybody can take away from this, that we have uh, a strange concentration of intelligent activity on this planet. That means if you were to see this from the sky, I don't know how I can visualize this, but if you were right now like able to see civilization from the sky, you will notice that there are energy centers. I don't know what the term would be. There are these centers, epicenter. No, I don't know. There are these geographical centers that human beings are around, and intelligence is like the new fire that everybody's spinning around. Okay, we're not spinning around an actual fire. We're spinning around that fire of belonging into a system of meaning and feeling coherence and feeling like we're in control of everything, because that's what they made us believe was the only way to be human. It is not. You are all so different from each other. You're all behind your eyes different beings, different inclinations. Do you know, if you do a job that's repetitive, you'll see. Do you know? I haven't like worked at a coffee shop, but I have been to the same coffee shop drive through for like a long time. Do you know? And after some point, you just begin to see the vitality of moments. Like there could be something very happy happening outside, but a person can be internally sad. And everybody could come and try to cheer this person up, but they have to be responsible for their inner life's meaning. And the reason it's designed that way, the system admin has said it this way, is so you have a privilege to move yourself before others can move you, and you stop caring to move yourself. Your inner realms, your mind, your inner life is designed so that nobody else knows what's going on behind your eyes. Do you know? Only you know, like how pure, impure, how nice, not nice, how let's say clean, disgusting, whatever. You know who you are in a way that nobody else knows, and that requires the responsibility. Do you understand? So we have the reason we are in front of our eyes, all around each other, but behind our eyes, all alone, is so we have an opportunity, a chance to feel what it's like to be alone, to responsible for something that only you can see and are aware of. Do you understand? That means, and of course it takes, like, there's different precedents for this, like different contexts you can see, different scenarios, right? Like there's some moments in life where, there isn't that much of an external responsibility. Like right now, my attention is more on myself and my moment, right? But if I was talking in front of a crowd of people, it would be a completely different thing. Like my OCD would kick in, and I would have to be like, okay, um, I, I don't know how, but I think it changes the moment you're giving a talk, and the moment you become conscious. Like there could be even like invisible beings in the moment, like when I'm talking, right? I don't mind that, but the moment I notice I have an audience, I am not the same speaker. It changes you. I don't know what, like I probably can explain it, but it's one of those things that a part of you doesn't know, and a part of this world is actually unknown. And the fact that they have made all of us believe that our motivation in life is to just maintain a self. Do you know what it is? It's piloting. You're already in the airplane. You're already in the plane of existence. It's just about how you pilot it, and your piloting is based on what you're aware of. You know, like I like something I didn't realize is that because I give these talks, I speak very fast, and some ideas that are like uncommon and, let's say, fringe or like deep, they're very normal and not deep to me, right? And when I try to like connect to people, on a more human level rather than like a global archetypal level, you know, I notice, it's like not only do our minds have different speeds, not only is our attention settings different, there's also powers beyond us that influence us. That means you're like this intelligence that receives signals from behind your eyes and in front of your eyes, and you're also playing with these signals. That means you see something in front of your eyes, and then you imagine. You see a pretty woman, and you imagine, like, if what kind of husband you could be, like, for her. Do you know what I mean? So the mind sees something real, sees something, takes existence, and perceives variations to that existence, probabilizes that existence experientially. And that sense of coherence, believe it or not, is based on attitude. That means these four questions is too close. Sorry, I thought you're too close. I'm sorry, guys. There's a car parking beside me. So. Okay. So, anyways, guys, to continue with the record-breaking amount of distractions this episode. I mean, it's honestly not record-breaking. I gave one talk. My God, the technical difficulties, like just the fact that I finished the talk. You know,
No, it looks scary, eh?
yeah, yeah. Guys, her car. She parked very nicely, but her car was like centimeters, like from the corner of my car. You know, like if my car had fear, it'd be trembling right now. Anyways, folks, I hope this was an interesting episode. We got through the research component. In reality, the question, like the view of what motivates human beings, it's very deep and very complex, and depends on the responsibility levels of the individual. Some parts of this life, you have to adjust it. You got to go and adjust the settings. Other parts of it, yeah, like others can adjust the settings. Like the reason I don't get into politics, I'm like, okay, I'm going to assume there's good people in the world and they're going to make the right decisions, you know? And people are like, you naive bastard. I'm like, no, guys, you don't understand. It's the wisdom. Like, it's the wisest view. I have to see, because if I want an advanced world, I got to see advanced beings. And if beings are not advanced, well, they can be. So I guess I you got to see the advanced potential, you know, of the life you're living, in order to advance it. I guess it has to be real. Anyways, yeah. Somebody in the chat section says instinct kicked in. Yeah, you know. Man, I'm waiting for that era where cars have personalities. Like when AI becomes so advanced, like your car talks to you, and then two cars like collide and the owner step out and both cars begin like talking to each other. Do you know? And one car is like, all right, I need the driver's like info, da da da. You start speaking in code, you know? It's like, yeah, man, our cars are gonna figure it out. Hey man, like I'm telling you guys, in the far future, car collisions, like of course everything could be automated, like there could be that reality, like I am robot reality, but I'm just telling you, AI is going to handle what's a hassle, and humans are going to understand that we are designed for more intelligent activity than more manifest activity. However, we do have important roles in our manifestation. That means in 2026, we don't have the privilege of being like a fully cyber being. Okay, we don't have the privilege of, like, I can't take you into my inner realms in 2026, right? You can't see like how I'm seeing things from behind my eyes. But in the far future, that could be possible. And it could be that one of the biggest, I guess, secrets, I shouldn't say secrets, so one of the biggest things that is important to prevent epistemic entropy in civilization, which is one of the most, it's a pretty scary scenario for civilization, okay, is the awareness that like it's important how do I explain? The journey is important. It has a value that surpasses the value only we can see. And honestly, I think it'd be really cool to experience like an advanced civilization. And in order to do that, I have to be as responsible as possible in my life to try to make the most advanced decision in every moment of my life. And that's why, as a Muslim, I have prayed to the higher, the most advanced power, the system admin, which is an unconditional original being. Not And we have access to conditional, non-original, or simulated reality. So a simulated being right now is giving a lecture to other simulated beings about how original, how original everything happening for the first time or the moment is, right? There is an originality to this moment. If I was to give an answer to these four questions for myself, which I will now in front of you guys, can I survive biological regulation? Yes, but I need to, I change the ways I live. Am I psychologically stable? I believe psychology is not meant to be stable all the time. It's like training. It's not meant to be easy. Therefore, psychological stability, yes, in the sense that I can discriminate what is an inner event and what is an outer event. That means some people confuse their inner events with the outer event. That means if I see someone and a person and I assume that person's a bad person, that's not that doesn't mean that person is a bad person. That means I'm oblivious. And so the psychological stability is the ability to discriminate. Okay, this is another human being. This human being generates their own meaning. The meaning I generate upon them is just the meaning I generated. It's my impressions. you know so psychological stability, I think it has to do with an ability to discriminate between your biology and your psychology. Okay. So your psychological stability has to do also with your biological stability. Like a frustrated person can't give a calm answer, really. you know or a tired person is agreeable. Times where I could have gone into an idea more deeply, but I just felt like I didn't have the motivation for it, therefore not the energy. Energy is such a strange matter too. Anytime something becomes important, we have energy. Like dormant energy is access, but anytime it's not important in the moments, like looping and regular, we feel like, man, I don't have energy, right? But the moment you make something important, suddenly the person just like jumps up, you know so that's the thing. You have to pretty much find a way to make life important for yourself. So, am I psychologically stable? Yes, because I stabilize myself, not in accordance to what I think I should be. Also, what else can I be, or what else is out there, or what is the most advanced ways that people are going forward or doing things, you know? Right? So you can see that there's, like, I've seen people who are way more psychologically stable, but I've also seen people psychologically unstable. There's been moments, days where I've been, there's nothing interfered with my psychology, but I've had an argument or there was a problem I couldn't solve, and the whole day was in the back of my mind, like just like playing like an open application. And so it's a very I believe that civilization is not designed for psychologically stable people. And I believe that this world, its intent is not to stabilize you psychologically in a looping niceness. It's in some sense to advance you. So am I psychologically stable? Yes, but I need psychological instability to advance my psychological stability, or to know what that even means. Three, do I belong? The point I've been making for years is that, do I belong? It says social integration, but ladies and gentlemen, go look at this. You belong. Not See, social integration is, if you go behave the same, you fit in. Okay? You belong if you play the part. If you go to Rome and act Roman, they're going to be like, this guy behaviorally is one of us. You know? But, this person may be not from Rome, right? They can act Roman, but they're not from Rome, right? You can see, it's about the quality of belonging. What do you want to belong to? Do you want to belong to an unadvanced civilization that doesn't care for itself and everyone's just in their own room doing whatever, not realizing we could make efficient, easy decisions, but we're making complex, hard ones unnecessarily? You know, like the sense of belonging is very important, and some people have different, I guess, standards. Like So I do understand that, like, yeah, people, people are not just people. A person can become someone's home. Do you know what I mean? Like, they become an intelligent, safe space for me, then. You know, right? But the sense of belonging, I find it's okay. Let me not go too deep into individuals' meaning of how they belong. Let me just say it this way: people want to access more advanced realities. More advanced realities are where there's more energy being input in that environment or space. Okay, that means if I want to experience advanced technology, I'm not going to go to a farm, okay, and live like a farmer. I'm going to go live in Silicon Valley or something like that, for example. You know, so the sense of belonging, do I belong? I guess you can get it from different ways. Like, I belong to the human. Every time I look in the mirror, I don't see my name and personality. I see a member of the human species. I'm like, oh my God, I'm being a human right now. Like, I belong to the like 117 billion. I'm one of the 117 billion humans that have been, estimated to have existed considering a 300,000-year-old civilizational range. So in the last 300,000 years, if there's been 117 billion humans, okay, 8.1 of them are alive. AI was saying like 7% of, everybody who's existed is existing now, alive now. And I consider it to be rare. Like, people might not care. Somebody might look at me and is like, I don't care, man. I don't care who you are. Right? I'm like, yeah, fair, right? But I care what the species is. That's the difference. I don't care who you are personally, because there's so many dimensions to a person that I can't even define you based on what I've seen from an individual. But it's the greater meaning. I'm trying to solve a macro problem. I'm trying to solve these problems, one, two, like these questions, 4 questions for human motivation. I'm trying to solve these macro, right? I'm trying to solve the macro problems, because once you solve a giant problem, it solves a bunch of other problems, smaller problems, you know? And that's what, like, I think if you go look at, like, I guess, I don't know, look at relationship therapy videos online, you're going to see it's all because they've made micro problems as significant as macro problems. And when you make a micro problem unnecessarily into a macro problem, you can destroy a relationship. Okay, if you avoid a macro problem and only try to solve micro problems, the event inevitably will destroy the thing. So I realize that really, to be able to fully be motivated in this life, we need to figure out, like check this out, guys. What am I even saying? It says the third question. So the 4 questions were: can I survive? Am I psychologically stable? Do I belong? Why should I continue? I was at the do I belong. I was like going into that, guys. If I tell you where do you belong, imagine the answers. Like, if somebody asked me, it's like, where do you belong? It's like, I belong to the human speak. It's okay. Let me say, where do I belong? I belong to Canada. I'm a Canadian citizen. And then if you keep asking, say, okay, I belong to this and this and this, like onionized concentric circles answers, right? Eventually, I belong to a species. I belong on a planet, and I belong to a whole species value. That means my value, sure, somebody could come and treat me based on my individual actions, right? But if you only value me based on my individualism, then you have not understood the meaning of yourself. Because to care for a human or to care for humanity is very different than caring for humans how you want. It's not personal anymore. So for me, ultimately, these answers are unknown. Can I survive? I think so. Am I psychologically stable? I feel so. Do I belong? I think so. Why should I continue? Because I feel so. I don't even maybe know, I don't know me even. To me, life is no longer, all right, man, you're this one guy who has the burden of giving everything meaning. And I'm like, no, man, this life is more like a collaboration with other beings that look like us, with beings that are just the presence of space, and with a being that has no relationship to any form. God is the rare concept that we are so blessed to have and to have reached, and species all reach that point. In the same way of somebody being in a room and then being like, wait a minute, though, is there more than this room? And they realize it was one room of a house, right? And there's many other rooms. Similarly, there's many different rooms. In the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God says, there's a passage that's like, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, means all praise due to the Lord of the worlds. That means the original moment has not simulated itself in one way. There are worlds here, but there is one moment that powers all of them, that commands and is the will to all of them. You think you're on this side of the coin, you don't feel it. You think that everything, even in the afterlife maybe, is individualized and individually processed. I don't know how to explain to you that just because a person is alive doesn't mean their moment is not alive. The moment is alive, but it is alive in ways that we can't interpret the meaning yet. Am I audible? Can people hear me? Anyways, folks, thank you for listening in. I am very curious and fascinated to know what do you think the motivations are for human beings? And what do you think the intentions what are the intentions behind, or the strategies or visions behind why existence is happening and why human beings have motivated? And what do you all think about this new year we've entered, right? So anyways, guys, feel free to write something in the chat section, help me advance my project. And hopefully my project will help advance all of us. It's so much more cooler to be in an advanced world with everybody being more advanced. Rather, it's like would you rather be in an efficient world with efficient beings, or you rather be in an inefficient world with efficient beings, or an inefficient world with inefficient beings? It's like efficiency is much better, yo. So yeah. Anyways, thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, the system admin of reality truly knows. We're all users. Go directly to the system admin. The mods are the main point of reality is to have establish a relationship with the host of the world, not created beings, because there are mods that we can't see that have which are pretty much managers of sectors of reality. But go directly to the system admin. You're not wondering about a good or bad anymore. You're wondering about, I guess, the modern interpretation of purity and impurity, which means originality and simulated. Because you've got it all wrong. I shouldn't say, I'm sorry, I'm saying it this way. I should say it this way. We have this view that there's like the human dimension, then there's the other entity dimension. Theologically, in Islamic theology, there's the jinn kind dimension and all of this. But just because we're in a room and there's parts of the room that we don't see, that there could be others in the room, and just because we contact those others for the first time doesn't mean those others are valid. Okay? Doesn't mean, wonder about how this world can be wondered about in so many different ways, and you'll realize the moment an individual, like pretty much a human being, this is the point I reached. I noticed so I could look at this life from infinite viewpoints. How do I know which viewpoint? So there has to be something, a metric, a way of measure, something justifying it more than just a conditional reality. So then my attention went to, okay, it's not about just existence, how existence looks like. It's about, why does existence look like this in this way, right? That means more and more as life is going on, the conscious experience of existence is becoming more like a conversation of a lower being with a higher being. In other words, I'm saying that sometimes what we think is the object or the subject is an unknown state. It has an equivalence in state, just being a state of a state, you know, state of a state. Yeah. Anyways, thank you for listening. God knows best. Go towards the original system admin beyond any conditions of reality. There is more to everything. And if we truly wanted to manage this system, we would need to be more than everything. And because we are not more than the world, we're in the world, this renders us again as having something to do here, play a role. And I'm sure many of you are playing your roles. You know, we're all, doing something here. I'm just saying let's advance it consciously together, because shared meaning has been the greatest catalyst. Like, humans managed to step out of the food chain because we had access to shared meaning. We cared about the same things. We all sharpened spears and decided to hunt a mammoth and have food for like half a year. You know what I mean? So, like, so, that's the thing. It's that being capable of being a human being in these modern times that can access greater shared meaning. And this doesn't mean just go with the mob. The mob is sometimes like an unconscious, you know child, right? We have to be, you're going to realize it probably, I think, when people get into their 30s they notice this, right? But you start seeing blind spots in that. You begin seeing stuff that used to be your blind spots in others, in other souls. Like, I like, that's how you're really getting old. You can notice, you can see your younger self through others. You could see how you used to be a child. You used to be a little kid who didn't know anything. you know we all were, like, nobody can talk shit. We all used to be clueless kids. Anyways, thank you for listening. Excuse my language, and may God bless us all. I believe there's an advanced destiny to the humanity. Have a great day, guys. Thank you.